What's up, guys? So we want to talk about real estate today. Brent's been a realtor for right at a decade. I've been a realtor for a little over 3 years, and Rob and Brent and all of us have really dove in head first into wholesaling, flipping houses, and then helping more buyers and sellers this year. And so why do you guys think that everyone wants to get into real estate? Like, why is it talked about so much? Do people just realize it can really be used as a tool, or they just hear people talk about it and it piques their interest? What do you think?
Well, I think real estate is just something that a lot of people are interested in, and everybody lives in a house, and so many people, when they see success in the real estate world, that was kind of I got into real estate, like you said, almost, I guess it's been close to 9 years ago, which is hard to believe. Not many people were getting into real estate. You were just kind of coming through a cycle where real estate wasn't that great, so there wasn't that many realtors. And then I got to see it kind of as the market got better and better, and people were buying houses, people were making good money doing realtor stuff. People started reaching out to me and asking, inquiring about getting into real estate. And then you saw toward the end of this last run, almost everybody and their cousin was a realtor. Like, a lot of people got into it.
Everybody knows one.
Yeah, so I think it's just such a big purchase, and I think everybody, when you dream of things, you dream of your house, you dream of that. So I think that has a lot to do with it. What do you think?
I just think, look, the process of buying a house or being an agent for somebody it's just fun, because you get to go look at all these cool houses. Some of them are cool, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
But like, another cool thing about real estate is, like, obviously the paydays are good, but the freedom that you have to kind of be your own boss, even if you're working for a broker. I mean, you're working a lot of weekends, but
there's a lot of freedom.
Ultimately, you're not going 9 to 5, and a lot of people like that because they look at that as a way they can make money, have fun showing houses, and they don't have to work that 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, and HGTV probably played.
Yeah, they got
Chip
Chip and Joanna.
Yeah, that probably played a big factor in the flood. But
then what about real estate investing? Like, because to me, like in 08, the market went all terrible, and I know people probably snatched up rentals and stuff, but was it already happening? Like, were there already tons of landlords before 08, and then they just got more afterwards because our technology advanced, so we could talk about it faster and all that, or you know what I mean?
Well, I think more and more people see, because now we have Google, and a lot of people are just
social
interested
media
with past success. So if you do some research, a lot of wealthy people got their wealth from real estate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's facts out there, and you never know who said this or what, but like, more people have become millionaires through real estate than any other investment. So I think what you learn is, when you really start understanding real estate, especially in our country, is one of the best places to park your money. It's truly an asset.
Mm-hmm.
And today, kind of where we wanted to go with this, because our show is pave the way, and what we like to do is to pave the way for our followers, to help them get through things that we see in life, and to help them get to the next level. And honestly, I'm going to get Rob to share his story, because I was his realtor and got to kind of experience, but my personal story too. When me and my wife got married, we bought our first starter home, and 2 years later, we had some serious equity that we could do something with. So tell them your story, because today what we want to do is we want to inspire you guys to buy a house, because I think home ownership is one of the greatest things that's happened to me. We're going to share our story so you can kind of because today's world, it is challenging. We're going to talk about interest rates. We're going to dive into all this stuff, but we want to kind of set the tone for you guys to understand why home ownership is such a cool thing and the benefits. So tell them kind of your story when you bought your first
and what
house.
year, how old you were, all that.
Yeah, so it was 2011 when we bought our first, which was a great time because, obviously the economy crashed in 08. And by the time 10, 11, and 12, those were probably the 3 best years ever to buy real estate.
Probably in our lifetime.
I mean, most of the guys we're looking at buying rental properties from right now bought in 2010 and 2012, and they were paying like $50,000 for all these houses. But when we first started looking, we had a realtor, because Brent wasn't a realtor when we were looking in 11. But it's kind of a funny story. We had been looking at a few different properties, had our realtor looking at a few different properties, and one day I was just sitting there at my office at the city, and I just got on Google and literally Googled house for sale, Dallas, Georgia. And the very first one that pulled up was 104 Oscar Way, which is right in the heart of Dallas. But what we didn't realize was, with the economy being as bad as it was and houses being so cheap, it allowed us to get like just stupid equity day one, because the house that we bought was a short sale. And the way a short sale works is basically the bank's trying to sell the house before the person forecloses on it. So the lady was still in the house was still in great living condition, and we were able to pay 107 for a house that was a 2-story brick house in a really nice neighborhood with a finished basement, which is kind of like just wild to even think about
dream.
now.
Yeah.
But once we locked that house down, we actually submitted an offer with the short sale, which, if you know a short sale, it could be a long process before you hear anything.
Yeah, it's not short. It's
No.
kind of
No,
it's kind of funny how
we
that
literally
is.
submitted an offer. They were asking like 125, I think, short sale, or 135, and we offered 107. And I don't remember all the stipulations, but we made the offer. We kept looking at other houses, didn't really find anything. They called us one day and said, "Hey, we accept your offer. You got to close in like 20 days." So it was like, wow, trying to get it all done. But ultimately, we bought the property. We were the only person that submitted an offer, which is just crazy to think about today. On a property that was with that crazy of equity, we were the only people that submitted a legitimate offer.
I mean, people just weren't buying then.
Yeah.
It was a wild time.
So we bought it, and we got married there. We grew a family there. Had Harper. That's where she went home too. But it was such an opportunity for me because I actually rented to. I had a buddy of mine that rented the basement, so it was a little bit of income at the beginning
some house
too.
hacking.
Yeah, I got to be a landlord to him, which, I mean, it was more. I just wanted him there because he was my buddy. It wasn't necessarily paying a lot of money, but that allowed me to cash flow a little bit of extra money. And I had my buddy there. But fast forward to after we got married, he moved out. Matthew, my brother-in-law, actually lived with us short term for a little while too. But when we got ready to sell, Brent was a realtor at this point, and it was 2018. So, 7 years later, basically, and we were able to sell that house for $255.
Let's go.
Yeah, and at the time we owed like under 100 G's on it. So
making 100 G's in one day, that changed your whole life.
Yeah, well, I mean,
how old are you at that point?
Well, when we sold it, let's see, 08 would have been
Late 20s.
4 years ago.
Probably late 20s.
So like 28, 29.
So the point why I wanted Rob to share that story is to look at what better way could he have spent his money. Like, there was not really a better ROI that you could have got for
You needed
that
somewhere to live.
situation. Yeah,
No.
and you needed somewhere to live.
And see, another cool thing about owning a house, and we didn't really even hit on this, but before, rewind back to like, I think it was 2016 or 17, a year or so before we sold it, we actually did a cash out refi. And because the rates had dropped some. So we did a cash out refi, lowered our mortgage payment, and I think I got like $30K out at the time.
No,
Well, I
exactly.
used that $30K, and y'all know me, I buy and sell trucks and everything. So I used that money, that capital that I was able to get from my equity to buy and sell and trade and buy trucks and turn that into more money. And then ultimately when we sold, I was still able to clear, like I said, 100, 120 G's after.
Yeah.
So your home really can be a tool. And I just want to comment, because people ask us still as realtors, how many short sales are there right now? And I'll tell you right now, not many.
No.
Not many.
It's
So
a different market.
the short sale deal is awesome. And then I also want to bring up how a lot of people talk about a home as being a liability. And it is an expense. It's something that you have to pay for. I would not recommend you go start looking at homes and go say, hey, I make $4,000 a month. Let's get a $2,500 mortgage. I would not recommend that. But as you see, you can use your mortgage. You can, over time, use it as a tool. Now, these interest rates nowadays, I mean, everybody freaks out. I know back in the 70s and 80s, it was 18, 15%. But honestly, like in our lifetime, this is the highest it's been.
In the last 23 years, it's the highest.
In the last 23 years.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, and that's why I really want to talk about this today, because there is a phase, and a lot of people today are in a position where they have to rent, where they literally can't afford the interest rate. And that's fine if that's the position that you're in. What I would say is, for those who are interested in home ownership, because a lot of people want to own their home.
Absolutely.
There's some people
I
that
did.
are fine with renting,
I
and
rented a
that's
long time.
perfectly fine, because I think the cool thing about rentals, for the right person, you don't have to worry about the HVAC going out. You don't have to worry about the roof leaking. All these things are taken away. But the beauty of it, if you're okay with dealing with the liabilities that come with it, it can be used as a huge asset. Probably one of the best assets known to man. Because another cool thing is, this is a little side note that not everybody knows. Rob holding his house for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you own a house as your primary residence 2 of the last 5 years, so if it's been your primary residence for 2 years, you don't have to pay any taxes on that profit. What other investment
None.
is like that?
No,
There's
none.
not any. So that's the cool thing, is he got to literally, every month when you're paying your payment, you're almost putting money into a bank account, essentially, that is your equity.
Yeah.
And you're just growing that equity. And to play devil's advocate, well, Brent, what if 2007, 2008 happens again? Man, nobody knows that could happen.
And the stats are out there that right now in our economy, '08 was a different economy. Right now in our economy, I think I read that it was like 52 or 53% of homes are owned 75% or more. So you know what that means? If someone owns a piece of property and they only have a 25% to 0% mortgage, that means they're not going to foreclose on it.
Correct.
That means they can't lose the house.
So it could happen. I'm not sitting here saying that the market is never going to crash again, or we could crash next year. Nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. But from what we're seeing from our side of things is right now with this rate situation, because we're addressing the interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it said time and time again, I've seen it, you have to marry the house and date the rate. So essentially right now, if you can afford, because the problem is rents are always going to be about equal with the mortgage. They like to keep it that way. So essentially what you pay in rent, you could potentially get a mortgage for that same price.
Most of the time rent's more than mortgage.
A lot of times it is.
I know a lot of people that are paying way more in rent than what I pay in my
somebody
mortgage
else's mortgage.
For a house you don't own, you have no
Correct.
equity.
So right now when people are saying, and this has been, man, since I've been in real estate, everybody's been saying, I'm just waiting on the economy to go down. I'm waiting on a crash. And I've bought 3 houses since then. And every time the equities went up and I've been able to sell, equities went up, sell. I've done that 2 times now, actually. So if you always sit on the sidelines waiting for the economy to crash or the housing market to crash, you may never get into a house.
And I can tell a story about that. Like when I was in college, I had an opportunity to buy a house in this 2013, 2012, 2014 market. And, you know, I decided to rent with roommates. Now, I never had a rent that was higher than a mortgage or anything. I always played it strategically. But I didn't buy my first house till I was like 26 or 7. And I rented the entire time. And honestly, what that did for me, you know, if you find yourself in that position, what that did for me is it gave me the chance to build up a lot of equity. Because once you own a home, you can take your extra money and just do things to it. Like say you have a fireplace, let's just build a little mantle around the fireplace. Let's say you have a deck, let's just add some nicer stairs and this, and your home shoots up in value. Your next appraisal, your home's gonna go from 250 to, like I bought my house for 260-ish in 2021. I guarantee from the things that I've done to it, it's worth at least 280 to 300 right now. And so you can use your money, your extra money, to make your investment in your property, the house you're living in, worth more for the day that you sell it. And that's what you did.
Absolutely.
So he lived in his house for 2 or 3 years, 2 separate times, and then sold it.
And I'm sure there's people, you know, that were older and a little more wiser than I was necessarily. But when the economy went down, you know, stuff was still tight, and you were still scared to make those purchases. It wasn't like when we bought that first house for 107. We knew what we were doing, and we thought we were getting a deal. We thought, oh my God, do we need to spend $107,000 in this economy? You know,
that's right. There
was a condo that we used to, me and my buddy Ryan would always take our families, and we would go stay in this condo in Panama City, and it was jam up, 2-bedroom, had a private pool on the beach. Like we would go 3 or 4 times a year back then. Well, when the economy went down, the guy that owned it reached out to me and Ryan because he was a friend of ours, and he's like, hey, I know that y'all probably aren't in a position because at this point I'm early 20s, but he wanted to sell us that condo for $100,000 because he was about to lose it. And we were too scared and too nervous, I guess too stupid at the time, to realize how good of a deal that was. And we just thought, you know what, we're too scared. This economy, we don't know what's going to happen, so we don't want to buy it. And that same condo right now would probably be worth really
300 to 500 probably.
And that's the lesson. More. That's the lesson you learn when you study real estate, because we truly try to become experts in everything that we do, and that's a lesson for you guys out there. Like we do a lot of things, but we try to do them at a high level. And I think a lot of people go into stuff and they'll do a lot of stuff, but they'll be just like novice and never really put their effort all in. I think you can go all in on multiple things, but if you're struggling to go all on one, don't spread yourself too thin. You know what I mean? So with that being said, studying real estate, man, it all happens in cycles. That's what's so cool, is that you can, the long term, real estate is probably one of the safest plays because people are always going to need to live. People are always going to need a place to stay, and just look at it. Don't take my word. go look at what house prices has done.
Average house price in whatever city you live
Just
in
go
this
look.
year, and then look at it this year.
And
it-
look at it 5 years ago. Look at it 10 years ago. It's never in our lifetime, even when '08, we got the experience. We're so fortunate we got to experience probably the Great Depression of the housing market. And it went on a 10-year run. So the moral of the story is we want to encourage you guys to think of your house as a truly an asset for the right person out there, because it's a great vehicle to store money, to build wealth. And it helped me build wealth. It helped me open up businesses. It helped me do so many things. You know, there's so many tools that come with home ownership. And I think in the world that we're living in today, where the interest rates are scary, I still think I would encourage you to try to find a house. If you're in a situation now where you're paying a lot of rent, if you're in a situation where you're living with your parents, if you can afford it, don't be scared, and don't think I'm going to wait till the economy and the housing market
Well,
to come
12
down.
years from now, you could still be waiting
100%.
And
be
homes.
mad looking at house prices and say, man, if I just would have bought that house 12 years
Correct.
ago, I could have made $100 grand right now.
And what's the worst case scenario? What happens in your opinion? Let's say somebody buys a house today and it goes down 50,000 in value. What do you do in that situation?
You just live there until it turns back around.
Literally.
Exactly.
You don't have to do
Hold.
anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just get you a payment that you're comfortable with. Alex had some great insight there. With a lot of times people will get house poor.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
whole, payment goes to, that's basically, oh, I got a house, but I can't even go eat, So don't be very smart with your budget. But if you're smart with your money, you can use these things as assets and build wealth.
Yeah, calculate it. I mean, look at your monthly income and make your mortgage payment 25 to 35% of that. So if you're making $5 grand, do the math, 25 to 35%, make that your mortgage. And if the interest rates and the economy don't allow it, I mean, just figure out what you're going to do about it, because you can always buy, and like they said, refinance. Like refinancing is a beautiful thing. When you get a home and say you get it locked in today at 7.5%, well, I would bet a lot of money that next year the interest rate's going to go down. I don't know all the rules. You'd have to talk to your lender about, can you refinance after 3 months or 6 months? I think it's like a certain amount of days. But essentially, if that interest rate drops down to 5, just refinance it. You'll have equity. You could cash out some of it, or you'll just get a lower mortgage and make your family more comfortable.
Just play the game.
And the key is, like, if you're 20 years old right now, are you betting that you're going to make less money or more money when you're 30? Okay, exactly. You're going to make more. So if you can kind of do it right now, just think about in 5 years as you grow your skills, as you get better at whatever it is you're doing, as you find a partner that maybe has a job as well, whatever series of life you're in, it should improve financially. Mm-hmm. That's why we go to work. That's why we build things.
Don't be scared to buy, because I mean, I got so many people that I know, local people that are my age that went to school with me, who were smarter than I was and went out and bought a bunch of houses, and now they've got 5 or 6 rentals, and now they're set. I mean, they're literally set because they've got 5 or 6 houses that are valued at $300K that they could sell at any point they needed them, and they're still making an honest living out working every day. So it's just like,
it's a great tool.
Don't be
and
scared.
That's what it leads to is, so many people are interested in building wealth through real estate. That's how we kind of started this conversation. We're very interested in that because you see time and time again, that's what the wealthy have done. Like, I love history. Go back and look at the wealthy people over time. They've built their wealth through real estate, and it's such a good preservation of wealth. So with that being said, it's like anything, like once you dip your toes in, and a lot of our audience is younger. So I may be talking to somebody that's like, man, there's no way I could afford a house. There's no way I could afford that payment. I'm living with my parents. I can hardly afford to pay them, $200 a month for my insurance. Mm-hmm. I had that same thought when I was coming out.
Same.
And what you learn over time is the harder you work and you set yourself goals. Go ahead and start writing down, I own my own house. Go ahead and start thinking about the day when because man, I'm telling you right now, I think about it pretty often. The day that Hannah and I closed on our first house, it was about 2 months before we got married. So I was going to move in. She wasn't going to move in yet, but we just went to the house after the closing. And dude, that was like the best feeling I've ever felt of just like, dude, I just bought my own house.
Only piece of furniture we had the first day that we owned it was a couch, because one, we never owned a house, so you don't think about that. But when you buy a house, you never had a house, you don't have any furniture.
That's right.
You got a bed from your mom and dad's, hopefully.
That's right.
And my sister had actually gave us a couch, so I went over there the first day and I put a couch up. and I slept there on the couch that night. And I was just like, this is mine.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
And
this
my
is-
wife and I,
it's so crazy.
we were living in a house built in 1941. It had no central heating and air. And the day we closed on our house, I took every bit of my stuff over there and I said, we live here now. I'm never going back. And she made me stay in that old house for another week while she got the new house ready. And I'm talking about I spent as much time as I could at that house just taking it in. So I mean, like Brent said, picture yourself in that 4-bed house right now that you own. Picture yourself in the 3-2 split, whatever house you're envisioning with the nice yard. You know, we ended up with an acre, and I can tell you an acre's larger than you think. So if you like that, go for it. But just picture yourself there, and man, you can make it happen.
That's right.
Yeah,
You
and
can make it happen.
And when you're looking to buy your first house, you don't have to get your final house. Like for our situation, we really liked our first house, but you know, it was a temporary house that we used to, you know, to build equity and eventually build the
Ultimately
house that we
build,
got now.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you don't have to necessarily love the first house you buy. It could just be the
No.
first house that starts you.
That's right.
And if you're younger and you're worried about paying the payment, find you some buddies that will come pay you rent, be their landlord, and
That's
then
right.
they live with you.
Play
Then
the
you're building
game.
equity
That's
off their
right.
money.
Play
You know
the
what I mean?
game that the wealthy play. That's what we're trying to help you guys out. That's this whole message today. Why we wanted to do this is because, you know, our life there's a big piece of our life that revolves around real estate and what's going on in real estate. And it's such a common topic of what we just talk about in life. And we just want to educate you guys on the benefits. And yes, there are also bad things that come with it.
There's
You know,
cons.
the HVAC goes out,
I've had it
the
happen.
roof leaks, all these things that come up that you got to take care of. But you're also, we want to encourage you to think deeper than that. It's not, well, yeah, I just had to replace my HVAC. I've got a brand new HVAC. Now my house
Just went up in
just
value.
went up in
And
value.
that's why
And your stress goes away because you ain't got to worry about it going out again.
exactly.
That's why we talk about the 25 to 35% budget. Also, like, get you a savings account, have an emergency fund in case something happens to the house you're buying. Just be prepared for the worst.
Yeah, and to the young guys, going back to that are listening, to the people who are like, I just can't even fathom paying a $2,500 house payment. Man, that goes back to, it's just a process, and get in somewhere where you can start working and making more money. And it's all that's what's so cool about the world we live in. If you provide value time and time again, you're eventually going to start getting paid for that value. So become more valuable, and that's how you up your income to get you to your goals, to get you to where you want to be. You got to be patient, but you got to also do what you got to control what you can control.
Yeah.
And I know he said young, but I mean, you could be 25, 30, 35, 50 years old and the same thing still applies. I mean, it's the
And
same concept.
If you're working a job that you're not making what you want, but you're hoping to make what you want in the future, find a side hustle. You know, there's plenty of things you can do on the side.
Rob's living
Good
proof of
Lord.
that.
Yeah, like I was making $9 an hour when I started at the city, and when I left, I was making like 15. And everybody's like, "How do you have what you have, making the kind of money you make?" Well, it was because I was out working side jobs, you know, and that might not be for you. Maybe you'd rather just have one job that pays you a lot of money, and I
that's
think
okay.
I
Yeah,
think
you
we
can
all
expand
would, but
within that one job. Like, just for example, real estate. I mean, for us, real estate started off as just like, hey, you know, let me go. Brent said he did rentals back in the day. Like, someone would want to rent a house and he'd be like, yeah, you can rent this house, and you make like $100 or something. And so
$250.
when I started, it's like, hey, I can list your house or I can help you buy and sell a house. And we still do that. But now it's also expanded into, okay, now we got Rob over here finding us wholesale deals. And then also it's expanded into, okay, now we're flipping houses. All right. And one day it's going to expand into, now we're owning a portfolio of homes. That's our goal. And so just start somewhere and maybe expand within that. Like when I started in insurance, another example, I started in insurance, all I did was sell it. Okay, then it got to the point where I sold it and I serviced it. Okay, then it got to the point where I sold it, serviced it, and then I got to the point where we started an insurance agency. And it just took years, but it takes time, like the value he's talking about. It took time for me to bring that value to the market and then to reap the benefit of that.
Yeah.
That's right. And so basically what our goal in this message today is to inspire you guys to go chase those dreams. And we know that home ownership is such a dream that most of us do have. And most of us are longing for that dream home and, you know, that dream family. So you can basically along the way control what you can control. And I just want to educate you too, the wealthy are buying real estate. That should be a part of your financial plan for the most part. I'm not saying it's for everybody. It's fine if you want to rent. There's always going to be people who want to rent for that lifestyle that comes with that. But I just want to encourage us all to look to real estate and to also just be content, man. I don't want to, you know, a lot of times our message can come across that you got to go, do these things and you got to
Today, right
yeah,
now.
it's, man, I do want to overemphasize the patience part and you know, being present where you are. And if you are in a place where you're renting, you know, that's fine. Just, we're here to educate and to show you kind of what we've done. But man, it's also, there's a lot of beauty in being content in the situation that
And it's
you're
just,
in.
it's delayed gratification. That house I mentioned that I rented with no central heat and air, it was a window unit AC, and you'd plug in a heater and just like freaking get 4 blankets because you're going to be cold if it's 30 degrees. Okay. I lived in that house for 4 years while we started these businesses until I got to the point where I could. And I knew that the end goal was there, but there was days of frustration living in that house, but I had to be patient. I had to wait till I earned what I deserved, like what I wanted. I had to earn it. So yes, we do want you to start picturing it in your mind right now. But some of these goals, I wanted to buy a house at 19 and I didn't buy one until I was 26.
Yep.
It took 7 years to just do one thing I wanted to do, but along the way, I accomplished a lot. So
And learned a lot.
learned a ton. Good Lord, learned a ton.
That's the thing. So, man, that's really my message today. We just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about real estate because it's what we do. And I know there's a lot of stuff going around like right now with interest rates, and that's perfectly fine if you're in a situation where it don't make sense to buy. I would just say if you are thinking about buying a house, there's never going to be the perfect time to buy a house, but study the markets. Look at what historically real estate has done, and trust us when we tell you it is a great investment. And I don't know that you can be sorry that you bought a house. Like, as long as you're capable to pay it and hold it, you're going to be fine. So.
And real estate can be a tool. And maybe we'll do another episode where we talk about house flipping and stuff. But anybody who's listening, leave us a comment. What's stopping you from owning a home? What's preventing you from getting in that dream home? Yeah. Let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
That was short and sweet, but good.